In our next section, we're going to continue our talk about problem solving with percents, but this time we're going to talk about three very, very specific types of problems that we can come across. So we're going to talk about sales tax, which is nice because we've all experienced sales tax, commission, which might be a little bit new for us, and then discounts, which again, we already understand sales tax and discounts. So the only really new thing here is potentially commission. Okay. So in our first video, we're going to talk about sales tax, okay? Now, the definition of sales tax is that sales tax is a percentage of the sale price of goods or services that is collected by the seller and paid to the government, okay? So let me highlight sales tax. All right, and please remember, we have a few definitions from our work with just percents that we need to make sure we remember because it's going to be a big part of what we do here. When you're dealing with a percent problems all have three parts. We have the percent, which is fairly obvious. It's either given to us or it's clearly the thing missing. But then we have an amount and we have a base. The base is the entire quantity considered. And we take the base and we apply the percent. So we always apply, which means multiply in this case, we apply the percent to the base. Then we get some result from that, and that result is the amount. So the amount is some portion of the base, and it is the result after the percent is applied to the base. So please remember that really basic information from the previous sections where we were learning just how to solve basic percent problems, okay? Now, when it comes to sales tax, the good news is we still have a base, an amount, and a percent, but they mean something very specifically in sales tax. So when you're dealing with a sales tax problem, the base is going to be the total dollar value of the goods before the tax. The amount is going to be the value of the sales tax, and then the percent is going to be the sales tax rate. A lot of times in math, we use rate, and it just means some kind of a percent. So it's different than the rates and ratios that we talked about before. Here, when we say rate, we mean a percentage. Okay? Now, we can still use the sales tax equation or the sales tax equation. We can still use the percent equation and the percent proportion with sales tax. So I'll do one of each. So one problem I'll do the percent equation, one problem I'll do the percent proportion just to be fair to everybody. Okay? So you've got your percent equation, you've got your percent proportion. So instead of saying amount and base, we're going to say sales tax and then cost of goods. Okay? Now, one thing you do need to be careful with, sometimes these problems are twofold. So they're going to have you find like the sales tax or the tax rate or something like that, but then they're also going to ask you for the total cost sometimes. And the total cost is going to be the cost of the goods before the tax, so like the pre-tax cost, plus any sales tax that you find. So just keep that in mind. You may have to do a little extra work on these. Okay? Also, my sweet dog, she's just like literally the cutest and the best. She is snoring very loudly in the background, so if you hear something, it's her snoring, okay? She's sound asleep. All right, so example one says solve each sales tax problem, include correct units with each answer. Okay, so for part A, it says Elizabeth bought new towels and sheets for $65. How much tax did she pay if the sales tax is 6%? So I should probably have said sales tax rate. Okay, so we don't know the actual dollar value of the sales tax, but we do know the sales tax rate and we know the pre-tax cost of the goods. Okay, so remember the amount is the value of the sales tax. And for us, that is currently unknown. The base is the pre-tax cost of the goods. And we do know that that is $65. And then the percent is the sales tax rate, which for us is 6%. So let's go ahead and use the percent equation first, and then in the second example, we'll do the percent proportion, okay? So remember, the percent equation is the amount equals the base times the percent. So when we talk about the sales tax equation, we would say, okay, the sales tax equals the pre-tax cost times the sales tax rate. We've just kind of replaced the amount, the base, and the percent with the very specific values for sales tax. So we don't know what the sales tax is. We'll just call that A, or you could call it X, N, P, whatever you want to call it. You can call it any variable you want. I'm just going to stick with amount, base, and percent. So A equals, well, we need the pre-tax cost of the goods, which was $65. And then we need to multiply that by our sales tax rate. And remember, when you use the percent equation, you have to convert your percent to a decimal. So if we have 6%, remember we convert that to a decimal by dropping the percent symbol and moving the decimal to the left twice. So 6% is the same thing as 0.06. So we're going to multiply by 0.06. And luckily, when you're looking for the amount, you don't really have to do any work in the percent equation. You don't have to like solve anything. We already have the amount all by itself, or the variable that we're using for the amount. So we already have A all by itself. We just need to multiply 65 and 0.06. So let's go to the calculator. We have 65 times 0.06, which is 3.9. Okay, now keep in mind we're dealing with money, so all of our answers need to look like money. Okay, so we would say A equals 3.9. Now let's make it make sense in terms of this problem. We could say the sales tax owed is not 3.9, $3.90. So make sure your answer is in the correct format, okay? Now, this problem didn't ask for it, but just for the sake of practice, let's find the total cost. Remember, I told you the total cost is the pre-tax cost plus sales tax. So, ooh, that zero got kind of wild and crazy. So if we were to take the pre-tax cost of these sheets and towels, it was $65. We want to add the sales tax, which is $3.90. So the total amount that's actually paid is $68.90. So that's how much that Elizabeth would have actually given the cashier. Okay? All right, so that is example 1, part A. Let's look at part B. Okay? So Joe bought new clothes for his bank job. Before tax, his total was $180. What will Joe pay after 5% tax is added to his purchase? Okay, so this one is asking for that total cost. It's not saying, hey, how much does he pay in sales tax? It's saying, what is the total amount that Joe ends up paying after the sales tax is added? So in order to do this problem, the first thing we want to do is figure out how much sales tax Joe is going to have to pay, and then we're going to add it to the pre-tax cost. So very similar to what we did in the previous example, okay? So remember the amount, that is really just the sales tax. For us, that is currently unknown. The base, remember, that is the pre-tax cost. For us, that is $180. And then the percent, that is the sales tax rate. We are given, we're given that it is 5%, okay? And then remember, I'm going to show you the percent proportion this time. The percent proportion is the amount over the base equals the percent over 100. So if you want to think like sales tax specifically, we would say it's the sales tax over the pre-tax cost. And that's going to equal the sales tax rate over 100. Okay, so let's fill in our numbers and solve. So we don't know what the amount is, so I'm going to stick with the variable A. You can use whatever variable you want. The base is 180. The sales tax rate is 5%. And remember, in the proportion, you do not have to convert it to a decimal because we put it over 100, so we're really converting it to fraction form. Okay, so we cross multiply, and remember, I'm always going to cross multiply the diagonal that contains the variable first, okay? So I get 100 times A equals 5 times 180. Okay. So you could certainly, you need to show me at least this much work, and then you can use your calculator for the side work. So we have 180. Well, maybe. There we go. So we have 180 times 5, which is 900. So let's go back to our worksheet. So we have 100A equals 900. And then what we want to do is we want to undo the multiplication of 100 and A. That'll get the A all by itself. So we're undoing what has happened to our variable. So divide both sides by 100. 100 divided by itself is just 1, so we get 1 times A. And then 900 divided by 100 is 9. Okay, well, what in the heck does that mean? This means that we pay $9 in sales tax. Okay, but remember, that was not the actual question that was asked. In this case, we want to know what will Joe pay after 5% sales tax is added to his purchase. So we want to know the total cost. So the total cost is the 180 that was the pre-tax cost of his work clothes, plus the $9 in sales tax. So we would say that Joe would pay a total of 189. Don't write it like that. Joe would pay a total of $189 for his clothes. And that's it. So that is sales tax. It's really just regular percent word problems. It's just we're doing something very specific called sales tax. So remember, the sales tax amount is the amount in the percent problem. The base is the pre-tax cost of the goods. The percentage is the sales tax rate. Solve for whichever piece is missing, and just know that sometimes you'll be asked to find a total cost, not just the sales tax amount. Okay. Next up, I believe we're going to talk about commission.